astrologists, the ones who really know what they're doing, know that this cult, especially with this thing called the precession of the equinoxes, is a sort of a calendar for telling this. And goddess worship goes back at least 25,000 years. And the scholars are, saying that it goes back at least that far.
But the patriarchal religion started when?
Well, that's almost from the dawn of what we call history today.
I see.
You're going to see the goddess image suffering. So right from the period of the Grecian and Roman times, she's already taking a second place.
I see. And so is this where Orthodox religion took over?
Yes. In ancient times, like I said, as the solar cult took over, they wanted to reduce the power of the female. And Orthodox religion is guilty of it. But to give you a concrete example, if you look at Hindu religion, which is very ancient, it's 7,000 years, they say, you're going to find that in the Hindu pantheon and cosmology, you have the famous creatrix. In the earliest times, they worshipped the goddess as the goddess Maya, Mahat, which is nothing but the Egyptian Mayat. They're the same concept. Ishwara, Prakriti, Shakti. These are all original goddess figures. But then you'll see them becoming appendages. You'll definitely see those becoming personifications, subsidiary to their male gods. And in fact, this is why today, when you say the word Maya or Prakriti, if you're studying these subjects, those words are synonymous with darkness or a negativity or shadow. See, this was completely opposite, but this is what has happened now. And we find that these deities are still around because religion cannot thrive without the goddess. See, this is the problem that they're caught in, is that the religion becomes very sterile without the feminine, without the goddess. So they had to keep the image, but they certainly did not make any allowances for the dominion of it. It always was a secondary role.
Is this why the Christianity used the Madonna?
Yeah, the Madonna is again another
symbol?
Concession, really. All Orthodox religion has tried to get rid of the goddess image completely. I mean, in traditional religion today, women have absolutely no place. So obviously they tried their best to get rid of it completely, but then they found that their religion was very sterile. So then they had to keep the archetype alive because you can't, completely expurge it, but you could marginalize it, so that we get these parodies of femininity, like the Madonna. And also we get this pernicious idea that there's something weak about femininity. With this comes the whole idea, the whole cult, the whole movement, that femininity is something weak and meek, which is simply not true. Anyone in the occult traditions, anyone who does martial arts, anyone who's familiar with Taoism will know that this is absolutely not correct, that there's a great strength in the yin force.
Right, because yin is expansive, isn't it?
Well, yeah, there's many. Yin is certainly not a weak thing.
Right.
In fact, it is the thing. It is the energy that sustains the universe.
Yeah.
And the Christian Marys, both of them, Martha, Miriam, Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of Christ, all of these female figures in Orthodox religion are basically watered down. Even corruptions of the original alma mater, what they call the alma mater. And a little research will certainly reveal the truth of this. And but we really have to face it that Orthodox religion, like Judeo-Christianity, is basically antithetical to everything to do with the precepts of goddess faith. Really antithetical, and they have, the book of Genesis, for instance, if you read that, there's a clear evidence, where the woman is responsible for the fall.
Yes.
This is what I mean by that.
Yes, yes. What is the connection of the goddess energy to the individual in today's society?
Well, that's a good question because, again, it has to do with science. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist who studied the subconscious drives of man, in pretty much the same way that Freud had done, discovered that there is a supreme mental archetype, something that dominates the unconscious and is behind all of the human drives. And he gave the name to this archetype, the anima, which is nothing but the goddess. So he discovered that the ultimate drive, the ultimate instinct, the ultimate archetypal force within the human consciousness is again the feminine, and it's an archetype that he gave the word anima. In fact, the word anima in Latin means to be animate, to be alive. So there's a lot of connotations here. And we see that people who have, when this archetype, any archetype, but especially this archetype, if this archetype gets repressed for some reason, as it is happening today, then there's great systemic disorder that comes about, and people who have psychological awareness can see the ramifications of this repression in society and in the individual, where the whole world is suffering from it, and individuals are also suffering from it. So the repression of the feminine modality of thought, is having the most pernicious effect on the earth and in individual life as well. The poet Coleridge, he said that all great minds are truly androgynous, you know, and that's what he was talking about, because people who are scholars, people who are poetic and thinkers and philosophers have always understood the power of the anima and the feminine, and they want to balance with it. And the ancients who were in balance with it saw no separation in anything. See, in our world today of physics, we see separations and divisions with everything. The ancients, who were one with the goddess energy, one with the right brain, they don't see separations in anything. The animate, everything was sacred, everything is holy. And this is again how it would also appear to us if we were, you know, merged with the right brain. And the tarot helps one. Studying the tarot, I found, helps one get in touch with that, because the Greek poet Pindar said that one race there is of men and another race of gods, but from one mother do they both arise.
Yes, absolutely.
So this is a very important fact.
What other types of symbols do we see of the goddess in our society?
Well, that's a really humongous subject. It's you know, it's just a gigantic subject, and scholars like J.J. Bachofen, who wrote this book, it's a wonderful book I brought.
Myth, Religion, and Mother, right?
This is one of the first scholars, long before it became vogue, to research and understand the power of the goddess force. But then you have Robert Graves, who wrote The White Goddess, a very pivotal book on the subject, beautifully written, poetically written. Then you have Mircea Eliade, and in modern times you have Maria Gimbutas, who's a wonderful archaeologist and scholar of the ancient matriarchal times. Eric Newman, who wrote a book called The Great Mother, is an absolutely pivotal work. And then more recently, Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung, people like that have resuscitated and pioneered research into the cult of the goddess, you see. But talking about symbols more specifically, the number 9 has always been associated with the goddess.
Yes.
The numbers,
how is that? Why is that?
There's lots of reasons to do with gestation, the 9 months of gestation, and also the sacred number 7 and 12, anything to do with the cycle. You see. The lunar numbers, 14 and 28, which are the cycles of the moon.
Right.
In fact, the symbol of the circle, which is the ovum. The circle is nothing but the ovum.
Right.
And then the symbol of the vesica, or the womb, what they call the yoni.
Right.
This is one of her symbols, which is why churches, again, have doors shaped like that.
Right.
Because you're going into the most holy.
Yeah, you're going into the most holy, yes.
And the ocean, the night sky, as I said, the cat. I mean, it's an endless subject, you know. But one of the most revered of all of the images associated with the goddess is the tree of life. And this is something that I get into a lot of my classes and my work.
Yes.
Is this image of the tree of life, which is known as the Kabbalistic tree of life. But for thousands and thousands of years, the female body was always known as the tree of life. And the fruits that came from the tree were the ovums that the goddess gave life to, seeds placed in her womb. So when the ancients looked at the night sky, which was her body, and saw the sun and the moon, and at night you see the stars, they saw those as being seeds inside the womb of the great mother goddess.
Yes.
This is how they saw ancient things. Alternatively, and that's in fact one of the reasons why you light fireworks, as we saw at the millennium, people were lighting a lot of fireworks. That's because you're throwing seeds into the body of the goddess to say, well, we want new life.
Right.
We're hoping for a flourishing tomorrow.
Yes.
So all of these traditions come from goddess worship, because we were literally seen as living inside her body, and that the planets were like embryos in a way, which would blossom forth and give us life. So people literally felt in the ancient world that they were walking inside the body of the goddess. Now, I don't know what that tells you, but that means that they lived in a very sacred way.
Yes.
And today we're raping the earth and molesting the animals and doing all sorts of things. We've completely moved away from this.
Separating ourselves from ourselves.
Absolutely. When you know that you're living inside the womb of your mother, and that's where you are, the great goddess, that totally changes the way that you perceive the planet.
Yes.
And the Egyptians and the Native American Indians and the Celtic Druids forbade themselves to cut any living thing with a sharp instrument. Compare that to today's horror, you know.
Yeah.
And and another way of looking at it also was that